What's a grading system without a report card? And in today's video, we'll be creating a report card like this, whereby simply entering the name of the student, his corresponding index number, the final rank that he attained, whether he is promoted or failed, and his respective scores for each and every subject will be displayed here, the total. Then also, if the term has ended, then his total attendance will also be simply displayed over here. Remember the attendance tracker we created, right? If you've forgotten, you can always check the link above to always watch my video on the attendance tracker. Shall we? And so to start here, we will first bring in the student's name. So we'll use the data validation to do that. So with the cell selected where the student's name should appear, we'll simply move to the data tab, then select the data validation, simply click on it. Then here, instead of any value, we would like a list. So we'll simply click on the list. Then where is our source? We would like to pick the source from the student score. So we'll simply select this entire student's name over here. And like I always say, we can always select more blank cells to make more room for in case a new student appears during the course of the semester or the term. And we can also create an input message to let them know what is actually happening here. And in case they are to ignore all the signs, then we can always create an error alert in case they go overboard. So we'll simply hit an OK. Then this drop down button will be created for us, where here, as soon as we click on it, the students appear over here, or we can simply use the first name of the student, then the name will simply appear here. Then we can choose or select any name of our choice. As usual, nothing will appear here because we haven't created any function. Then the next thing to do will be to bring the index number here. So we'll use the slookup to do that. So equal to slookup. Let's simply use the slookup to do that. Then the lookup value will obviously be this one. Then let's bring in a comma. What is our lookup array? Let's go to the student scores again and select this entire lookup array, and let's simply lock it up. Then our return array, we want, in case we are looking for this, the return array should be the index numbers. So we'll simply lock this one also. Then in case it's not found, let's simply leave it as blank and simply close our parentheses and hit enter. Then the corresponding index number appears. So what if a student's name is to change? Let's simply change the student's name. Then voila, the index number also changes. Let's also move on and now apply not just any date, but let's apply the today function so that anytime we open our Excel book or Excel worksheet, the date will automatically update so that it will pick up when the term has ended per a function we will create to bring in the total attendance. So we'll simply hit the enter, then today's date will magically appear for us. So you simply need the equal to the today function to bring in today's date. Then to continue, we would like to bring in the scores, the grade, the remarks, and the rank of each respective subject for a student. So to do that over here, we'll be introducing two functions, the if function and the slookup function. So what do we want to say? We want to say if, so equal to if and the tab key. So if this very cell here, if English language is equal to, if you have to move to the final grade, the English language over here also, then what do we want? We want to say if it's true, then let's look up this very student here. So we'll look for this very cell over here. Then we'll bring in the comma. Where is the lookup array? Obviously, the lookup array is over here. So we'll simply select this entire lookup array. Then let's simply lock it. And what is our return array over here? So this is our return array anytime the student we are looking for is found. And let's simply lock it. Then what if it's not true? Let's simply leave it as blank. Let's close the parentheses. And if false, let's also leave it as blank. Let's simply close our parentheses and hit an enter. Then voila, the student score automatically appears here now. Now let's go back and check if indeed Paul or Osei Paul had 79 in English language. So let's go to the final grade and Osei Paul, yay! Now let's go and change the student's name over here. So let's type in Selassie and see. Let's simply select Selassie, and Selassie had a 90. Let's confirm whether indeed she is that good in English. Oh yes, she is. So over here our function is working perfectly. And so moving on, we'll do same for the mathematics, science, and social studies. But before that, let's introduce the grade and the remark of this very score here. And so to do that, we'll use the slookup function to bring these two data out. So we'll simply use the equal sign, then type in the slookup function, simply hit the tab key. Then what's our lookup value? Obviously this one. Let's bring in the comma, and our lookup array, let's simply go to the data again and simply select this entire data or criteria and simply lock it, then bring in the comma again, and our return array. And since we want both the grade and remarks and not only the grade, we will simply select this entire range, then simply lock our data range again and simply bring in the comment again. And if not found, let's simply bring in the blanks. And since our data isn't or doesn't necessarily match to this course, because some of them might fall within this, we will simply not want an exact match, but an exact match or the next larger item, just as we did in our previous video. So I'll simply close the parenthesis and hit the enter. Then the grade and the remark will simply appear over here for us. So we'll do same for the mathematics, the science and social studies also. And if the students offer more than these courses or these subjects, we can always create or make more room for as many subjects as possible. So there is no need to worry if it's only 4 subjects we are working on just for today. So I'll simply work on these ones and get back to you. So now I have introduced the score, the grade and remarks for all of the subjects. I hope you've done same. So if we are to change the name of the student, let's say Akwasi, since we've scored Akwasi, let's simply choose Akwasi. Everything changes over here. Then let's say Osepo, or let's say a student we haven't scored. So let's say Yoon Jinwoo, let's select him and everything goes blank. So this is what we want in case we haven't graded a student yet. So let's simply clear this, or let's simply introduce a student's name. Let's simply introduce the last's name, then this. So now the next thing we'll do will be to rank this one. And so to do that, we'll use the if function. And what are we trying to say? Equal to if, okay, if this very cell is equal to a blank, if it's equal to a blank, then let's simply leave it as blank. And if not, then let's simply rank it, right? So let's introduce the rank function. So we'll simply rank it. And what are we ranking? We are ranking this very number over here. And what is our reference? So our reference is in the final grade where we scored for the English student. So we'll simply select this entire range. Okay, and let's simply lock our data set. And like I always say, we can add as many cells as we want as possible to make more room for the future or for future sake. So we'll simply select this one for now and simply bring in a comma. So we want it in a descending order. So from first through to the very last. So we'll simply select the one. So we'll simply hit the tab key to select this one. Sorry, let's simply hit the tab key. Then let's close the parenthesis. But this is not all that we want. So in the case that we are done with the ranking, the next thing we'd like to add, if you remember, is the count if function. For in case if two students score the same thing, then we'll use their names to now differentiate who ranked first or who ranked last. So the count ifs, what are we trying to count? So the first thing we'll count will be this very range over here. So we'll simply select this very criteria range. Then let's lock it. Then we'll bring in the comma and the criteria. The criteria, we would have to go back to our report card. This is the criteria we are talking about for the range. Then we'll simply hit the comma again. Then for this, where is the criteria range? We will go back to the final grade again and simply select where the names are as the criteria range number 2 and simply lock the cells. Then the next thing we'll do will be to introduce the less than. So let's bring in the double quote, right? Let's bring in the double quote and bring in the less than sign and close the quote. Then we'll introduce the %. Then the cell we'll be selecting over here, or the criteria we'll be selecting, will be this one, since they will be the ones which will be changing. So we'll select this one and simply close the parenthesis. Let's simply close our parenthesis and hit enter. Then voila, this rank will be given to us. So let's go and check the final grade if actually in English language Selassie ranked second. So let's simply go. So if you are to closely look at them, indeed she ranked second because Della had 93 in English also. So obviously Sela will get the second position. What if we are to change the scores over here? So let's simply create this to see if our theory will work. So let's simply add a bit of scores to it and simply go back to the final grade. Yay, Salah is now first. Now let's go to the report card. Yes, it is working, right? So we are automating everything so that everyone will be comfortable. So we will do same for the remaining of the mathematics, the science and the social studies. Then I'll get back to you. I hope you do same also, and I hope you are enjoying this very lesson. If you are, kindly hit the like and subscribe button and share to support and help this channel. Thank you. So let's move on. So now we've automated everything from the score through to the grade, the remark, and the rank. So anytime the name of a student changes here, then everything also changes here. But there is something worth noting. If you have to carefully look here, in mathematics and science, Salah ranked 5th. Let's go check up the final grade to see something. If you have to look at science, Oseipo scored 87, then Selassie also scored 87. But why is Selassie ranking 5th? This is because of the counting function we introduced, so that anytime two students got the same score, then we'll use their names to do the ranking for them. So if you haven't checked out my video on how to grade a student using Microsoft Excel, you can always use the link above to check it out to understand it more. And if there is something in particular you do not really get over here, you can always let me know in the comment section, or you can always play back to get a clear understanding of what we are dealing with over here. So now we have automated everything. If a student's name is to change over here, then everything automatically changes. So let's bring in a student we haven't ranked yet, then everything goes blank. So we don't want any zeros or any errors in our automation so that no one will have doubts about what we have done. So now moving on, let's do it for the total scores. So we'll simply introduce the if and the end function. So let's simply do that. So equal to if, and let's say the tab and end. So we'll be using this function. So the first logical is if this very cell, right, is equal to a blank, then if this also is equal to a blank. Okay, so now if all these cells we've selected is, or if all of them are blank, then we would like to have the total scores as blank. But if not, then let's simply introduce the sum function, because if not, then we would like to add them up. So we'll simply introduce the sum function. So let's hit the enter or the tab key. So we would like to sum this up with this, then with this, then with this, if they are all not empty. So we'll simply close the parenthesis and simply hit the enter, and voila, this is what will appear for us. But what if now, let's say you clear all this up, right? Let's simply clear all this up now, and voila, everything now disappears. But what if you had to introduce a student here? Then their corresponding scores, grades, and everything appears over here. And so moving on, the next thing to do will be to indicate whether a student was promoted or not. So let's simply first get rid of this thing we've already done over here. So let's simply delete everything. Then now to do that, let's introduce the ifs function. So ifs, so we are trying to create more criteria or logical test over here. So the first logical test is we are trying to use this. So the first one is if this is equal to a blank, right? If this is equal to a blank, if this is equal to a blank, then what if it's true? Then we like to leave it as blank. And if not, if this very same cell is greater than, is greater than or equal to 250. So let's set the promotion score to 250. So if it's equal to 250, then what we want to return is promoted. So let's simply indicate that. So promoted, let's put it in caps. Let's simply put it in caps. Promoted. Am I right? Yes. And if not, and the last logical test will be if this same cell, is less than 250, is less than 250. So if it's less than 250, let's simply type that. Then what do we want? Then the student sadly failed the very class. So we'll simply close the parenthesis and simply hit enter. Then if you are to see here, Salah is promoted or Osei is promoted because his total score exceed that of 250. But what if? What if? So now let's change the very score of Paul to see what will happen now. So let's say he scored 555 because he wasn't feeling well. So let's say 30 over here. And let's give him 555 over here, and also here 30. Now let's go and check his final grade to see if it matches up. Osei Paul Okay, 264. Let's still worry him a bit and let's change the score a bit more for him. Oops, nope. 5. Okay, all right. And by the way, just as we created a data validation for this to restrict the very cells, we can also create a data validation for all these where the numbers don't exceed this very test we've created over here, so that even though we say the score should be between 0 and 10, no one can exceed that. We can always create a data validation for that. So that's just for the heads up. So now let's see Osei Paul's total score is 80. Sorry, so now Oseiport's total score is 130. Now let's go back to the report card. Oops, he has failed. Yes. So now our automation is simply in order. Now we've done for the student name. Everything is automated here. The serial number. Then the final rank, we'll work on that. The today function where the date updates. Now the grade, the score, the grade, the remark, and the rank automatically will update. Obviously, if data keeps flooding over here, then the final results being displayed over here. So there is no need to panic. So now let's work on the final rank. And moving on, the next thing we'll tackle will be the final rank. And here, there are two ways we can tackle that. The first one will be to use the SLOOKUP, and the second one will be to use the rank function over here. But let's simply use the SLOOKUP since the final rank will automatically stay the same regardless of whatever happens. So we use the SLOOKUP to bring it up. So let's simply do that. So let's introduce our equal sign, then the SLOOKUP, then the lookup value we are looking for is the name, and let's bring in the comma, and within which lookup array is obviously within this array. So we'll simply lock it, and the return array will be the rank. So we want the rank to appear anytime the name of the person comes up. So if not found, let's simply leave it at blank and close the parenthesis and simply hit the enter. Then the rank of the very student will appear over here. What if the name of the student changes over here? Let's say Osei Michael, then everything changes. We can simply go to the final grade to confirm whether indeed Osei Michael ranked 4th. Obviously he did. So our ranking system or our final rank over here is working. The last thing now we'll tackle over here will be the total attendance. And so over here, we would like to create a little magic. A little magic because our student attendance tracker is not in this book, so we would have to reference it from another book. And so to do that, what we'll do is to simply introduce the if function. So if, okay, so we'll hit the tab key to bring it. If our today function, okay, so we want to say that if indeed today marks the end of the semester, then let's introduce the very attendance mark. So we'll simply go to our attendance book and equate it to the very last day of the semester. So if our today's date is indeed the day we are vacating, then what do we want to do? Then let us look up for the very times or the very number of times the students came to class. So let's look up. So let's go back to our report card and look up for this student name over here. So we'll simply look up. Then the lookup array. So the lookup array, let's go back to our attendance tracker again. So the lookup array is within this set of students, right? So then we'll bring in the comma. Then the return array. The return array, we want the number of times present. We will simply select it. We will simply bring in the comma sign. And if not found, let's simply leave it as blank. And let's simply close the parenthesis and hit the enter. Oops, let's simply accept the correction. And it's false because here is not equal to the 14th of July, but we don't want the false to appear. So let's simply bring in the if it's not true, then let's simply bring in the empty sign. So now let's do same for the total actual school days. So over here also, we would like to say if, so equal to if, okay? So if this very cell, okay? So if this our today's function or our today's date is indeed, so let's simply equate it to the final day of the semester. So let's go to the final day of the semester, which is the 30th May. So let's select that one. So if it is actually equal to this, then what do we want? Then we'll simply want to now come to the student record and simply select any of these dates. Since the total school days will be equal for all the students, we can simply select one. So then we'll simply bring in the comma sign. And if false, let's simply leave it as blank and close the parenthesis and hit the enter. And voila, is blank now. So now let's test our theory, or let's test our function to see whether we are not playing around too much. So let's go back to our student attendance tracker and let's check the date. So the date is actually what? A 30th May, sorry, a 30th May. So now let's change our date over here to a 30th May. So let's clear the today function. We can simply introduce it back. So my date is in this format. So May, the month first, then it's a 30th May, right? So 30th May 2025. Let's simply hit the enter key to see, and voila, the total attendance for Osei Michael is 8 out of 8. Now let's go back and confirm whether it is true or we are telling lies over here. So now let's come to the attendance tracker. Osei Michael is what? 8 out of 8. Yay! It is working. So now let's check out for Paul. Osei Paul is 7 out of 8, right? Selassie is also 8 out of 8. Dela is 8 out of 8. So now let's go and change the name from Selassie or Osei Michael to Paul. So let's change it to Paul and see what will happen. So sorry, this is Paul Yale. We are talking about Osei Paul. So Osei Paul, let's simply select Osei Paul. And yes, it is working, right? 7 out of 8. He came to class, or he attended the class 7 out of 8 times. Then it means our function is working. So now let's change it to our today's date. Let's simply change it to the today's date and see. So let's simply do that and hit the enter key. And voila, our function is actually working. If this video has been helpful, kindly don't hesitate to hit the like and subscribe button and share to support the channel. Until next time, it's bye for now.